Welcome, Ginny. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for joining us and taking some time out of your very busy schedule to kind of walk us through your journey. So, not everybody knows what American Ninja Warrior is. So, could you give us a quick rundown of what it is?
American Ninja Warrior has been around for, well, this will be the 16th season, and it's basically an obstacle course. And I like to say it's people doing things that seem impossible, and yet they make them possible. So you may be hanging from your fingertips, you may be throwing a lache, which is when you go from one bar to another. Each year, the obstacles get harder and harder. And they start out with a qualifier where you have 6 different obstacles, and people may have heard of the Quinn steps, which was originally the first obstacle, and the warped wall, which was the 6th obstacle. So if you qualify, if you get through that, if you clear it, or if you get the farthest, the fastest, they take a certain amount of people to do the city finals or semifinals. And then if you get through that, you go to the stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are usually in Las Vegas, the finals. So it's very exciting. I mean, you're doing the obstacles over water. So yes, you do get wet if if you fail, which I've done my share of. And it's just an exciting show. It's a reality show. These are people who practice all these obstacles, and they learn to, you don't see the obstacle before you go to the show, and you're not allowed to do the obstacle, and they are new obstacles. But if you've practiced a lot of things that are like it, then hopefully that'll help you get through.
And you've done this.
I have. I The first time I did it, I failed on the first obstacle. The second time I did it, I failed on the first obstacle. So my goal was to get to the first obstacle. And this last season, which was 15 in 2023, I got to the first obstacle and became the first person to the oldest person to complete an obstacle.
That's
So that
amazing.
was pretty cool. I didn't know it at the time, and they made a really big deal out of it, and it was pretty exciting. And I had my daughter on the sidelines giving me clues and cues and
So,
tips. And
let's talk about your daughter because she's done this and she was the one that got you into this, correct?
yes, her name is Jessie Graff, and she's gone farther than any other female on the show. She was the first female to complete stage 1, which was a huge deal. I think only maybe 2 others have done that since. She's been on the show for 10 seasons. This
Wow.
coming season will be her 11th season. And she may not be, she says she may not be the strongest, but it's figuring the best way to get through the obstacles. And she does a great job of it. She usually wears, she's a stunt actress, so she usually wears, costumes that reflect some of the shows that she's done. They're not exactly the costumes from the show, but they kind of reflect it, and you get an idea of what she may have been in. And she just has the whole picture. She's got the personality, she's got the strength, she's got the muscles. And I just thought, she looked so amazing going through those obstacles and getting through them when they look impossible. That I saw her and I went, I would like to get stronger. And that's where the whole ninja thing came into being. Because um, growing up, my uh, age, my generation really wasn't encouraged to lift weights. You didn't want to get too bulky, it wasn't feminine. We did girls' push ups, we did, just lots of things that kind of kept you out of the sports world. It wasn't until 1972 that they did Title IX, where women started to have equal representation in sports. So 1972, I was already, in my 20s. So, so I kind of missed that whole thing. But when I saw her, I went, the muscles look healthy and strong, and they're sexy, and they show, the picture of health. And after doing more ninja, I saw how they made me healthier.
So
You
how
don't
did
have to. you don't have to lose muscles as you age.
So
You
how
know,
did she get you started with this then? What was the kind of the catalyst was watching her, but what was the catalyst for you actually going into American Ninja Warrior?
well, the first obstacle I saw on TV all the time, and I went that the athletes made it look like it might be possible to do. It's 5 steps that are angled, and you jump from one to another, and then to a rope and swing to a platform. And they're a distance apart, and there's a big angle. And I went, I'd love to try that. And there happened to be a fellow who lives close to me who was also on the show and had fallen on the first obstacle. And since we have no gyms close to us, he started building them in his yard. So I met him through an acting class, and I said I wanted to work on that. And he said, well, I happen to have them. So I went there and I looked at him and I went, I'm going to sprain my ankle and jumping from side to side at an angle. But what we did is we took baby steps. We brought the steps in closer. And once you start doing that, you move them out a little bit, a little further apart. And little by little, I was able to do the steps. So we videoed it and I sent it to my daughter. And she was like, oh, that'd be cool. That'd be neat. And so they did in season 8, they did a segment on a mother daughter working out together. And they did a beautiful job, the production. And they just kind of, while we were there, they just kind of put that bug in my ear that I should, you know, try to send a video in to be able to be on the show. And I was like, no, I don't know that much about things. But I went, when the time was up and, it would close out, I needed to get a video in. I went, well, I might as well just give it a try. I mean, I don't have to do it. It was a very slow entry. And I sent the video in, which you have to show personality and you have to show skill. And they gave me a call in January. And I'm like, what do I do now? And Jesse says, well, the first thing you need to do is get to a competition. You need to do some of the regional, the local and regional competitions just to, see what it's like to compete. And so that's how that started. And I really wasn't ready. The steps that I was on are very different from the steps they had. So it was devastating to fall because
Oh,
I thought I had let down all seniors, my family,
oh
my
no.
daughter. It was like you kept going through it in your mind as the foot slipped on one of the steps, and I felt the water, and I'm like, this can't have happened. How did this happen? I practiced this, but again, it's a very different thing in a different distance, and I kept reliving it, and I saw the show as it went on. They didn't show me, thank goodness, but I saw the show, and again, the athletes made it look easy, but it is not.
No.
So that was tough to get through, and I
So how did you overcome that? What was kind of your thought process? Was it like just
well, it
I'm not
took
gonna let
months.
you defeat
It
me or
took months,
yeah.
but I had a lot of support. I mean, my husband said, "Well, you'll do it again, right?" And I'm like, "Why would I do this again?" And he says, "Because you can." And my daughter said, "One fail, one fall, one fail, shouldn't define you. Look how far you've come. Look at the process. Look how you've gotten stronger. I mean, you can go back to your, a comfortable kind of life, or you can get up and defeat it and keep going." And I knew I didn't want to stop. So, I mean, there was no harm in just, continuing to work on it and work on the steps and work on different things. So that's pretty much what I did. It was just like, well, I don't want to, I don't want to be defeated by this. If I can get better, just train harder and defeat that feeling. Don't let
How,
it get
how
me.
yeah, how did the support system, like what support system did you have and how did they affect you being able to move past it and to continue on?
I don't know that I'll ever move past it because I'll never forget that feeling. It's like if you've ever been in a car accident, you hear that metal, you just never forget those feelings. Um, and I don't know, I just felt that I needed to prove to myself that I could get through that challenge. I knew I wouldn't ever be happy with myself if I was 80 years old and looked back and said I should have done it again. I don't want to have that feeling. So it was just a determination to get better at it. Now I actually ended up testing for them, which you can do if you're not in the show,
Hmm.
and they bring people in to do the obstacles, and they may, if they're too easy, they make them harder, and vice versa. So I was able to get on obstacles, and it was a lot of fun. I got a lot wet. I fell a lot, but it was such a great feeling of camaraderie, and it didn't have the pressure of that nighttime going on something you've never been on
That's
before.
got to be intimidating. It's
It
if you haven't seen the show, it's like there's people and there's lights and there's sounds and it's a lot of stimulation. Um,
is, yeah, yeah.
Focus must have been really hard.
Focus is what it's all about. You have to be able to push those things out. And this last season, I was able to do that with the help of my daughter because we had come up with certain cues, not a lot of words. I didn't want a lot of things to get my mind jumbled. I just needed one comment. And she said those things at the right time and helped me through it because it was a brand new first obstacle. So I was like, oh no, I've worked so hard on that first obstacle and now they've changed it. And it was a very interesting one. It was, you had to jump from a mini tramp to a pole, like a pole vault, and you had to climb very fast because once you got on it, it starts to fall off to the side to a platform. So you have to keep climbing, climbing, climbing so that you land on the platform and not in the water. And you can't get wet and you can't get your hair wet or anything. You need to get there dry. So that was it was a it was a scary moment, but then there was so much cheering from the audience and just trying to get you to keep going on. And then the second obstacle, I think this is one you had mentioned to me. You had
Yes,
nunchucks, if you know what that is. They're slippery and they're too,
just like little
um,
dowels.
yeah, but they're nunchucks and they're fat. They're fatter than a dowel.
Yeah.
Well, I guess dowels are all sizes, but
Eh,
and it was hooked over it's sort of like a zip line, but it was a pipe and it had two big drops in it.
yes.
So the drops, a lot of people were falling on because once you drop, you somehow you lose one of the nunchucks and down you go. But I was able to get through the two bumps very easily, but it was called grease lightning and it was called that for a reason. You went very fast on it, and I didn't prepare properly for the dismount, which was far away. And lots of people were falling on that as well to
Yeah.
get to the platform. So I didn't release, and so I had to pump myself all the way back as far as
I
I could.
saw you doing that and I'm like, how is she still hanging on? Like my hands hurt watching you. I'm like, I don't know how you still had that grip because it was literally the muscles in your hand and you were trying to move yourself back up this slippery bar.
Yeah,
And I don't
yeah.
even know how you did that.
It was quite a while. In fact, I think I went back maybe four times, but
You
each time
did.
I lost more momentum. And I wish I'd yelled out, "Okay, any ideas? What would you next?"
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. I just went, I have no momentum anymore. So I went, what the heck? I'm just going to try one more pull up, and then I dropped down.
Oh,
So I think they made
but
a big deal. There were a lot of things about it. There was a mother daughter bonding that was special about it. There was the fact of the age. I was 71. I'm 72 now. There was just the determination of getting through that, not stopping. So I was glad I was able to show that part because I could show strength at least. So now I have to get through the first and second obstacle. I try to make attainable goals. And I tell seniors that all the time is like when I first started strength training, I made a goal of 5 pull-ups. And I thought that was reachable. I thought it was attainable. And it took me forever. It took me a year to get one pull-up because I had no upper body strength.
And your daughter called you out on that, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. I got the bar that you put in the door frame, and I had handles that came down for it. And I'm working and struggling, and I sent her another video, and she said, "Well, it's great. It's wonderful that you're working on this and trying to get stronger, but that's not a pull up. You have to go all the way over the bar with your chin and all the way down." So I went, okay, I'm going to a personal trainer because I'd never lifted weights in my life and I
Yeah.
had never been to a gym in my life.
You
I was
had
a
some
dancer.
dance training. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a dancer for many, many years, and I went to New York to be a professional dancer and was. But dance is so different from this. It's strength in a different way. I don't know why we didn't develop upper body strength as much, but the arms seem to be a framework for your what you're trying to get across. I did interpretive dance, which is telling a story. It wasn't ballet. It wasn't. Today, the dance is more athletic, I would say. I mean, they have incredible. They can get their leg to their ear. I mean, I didn't dance like that, but it's very, very different. So I had to develop the upper body, the arms, the chest, the back, and that's what I worked on for. It took me about 7 months before I noticed a definition or a toning, and it took a year to get one pull up.
Did you
So
find that disheartening?
yeah, but I had a goal and I had to make it. I mean, I saw some progress, and I think that's what happens to a lot of people when they go to the gym. They want immediate progress. They want to see, the result, but it's the process along the way that you don't want to look necessarily at the end. You want to be seeing the progress as you go forward, and that was what she was saying. Don't let one fall define you. It's the process along the way. You've gotten stronger, so keep at it. So knowing that I was getting stronger and feeling tone and strength, the the pull up wasn't the necessary, like, I have to get that right now. It was, it's going to take time. Success takes time.
Do you feel like your experience as a dancer helped to give you the determination to work so hard and so long at this to finally achieve what you've achieved?
Definitely. Dance is a discipline, and that's why I like the kids that are doing the sports and things like that, because it's a discipline. You have to show up every day. You have to keep at it. You can't just quit, if you're on a team, or even if you're dancing by yourself, you still keep at it. I also think that it helped me very much with balance. And there are a lot of balance obstacles along the way in American Ninja Warrior and ninja competitions. And that's the thing, as you age, as you lose balance, it's a vestibular system. You tend to start losing that balance in, like, when you turn 40. So I think I read somewhere where if you're 50 years old, you try to balance for a minute on one foot, on one leg. And actually, I might have that wrong. I think it's like 40 seconds. So if you're 50-year-old, you balance for 40 seconds. At 60 years old, you should be able to balance on one foot for 20 seconds. And if you're 70 years old, you should balance on one leg for 10 seconds. And that's just a little guideline that people can do, holding on to a counter or something so you can grab it if you need it, or even just hold it on the whole time. And you'd be surprised at how hard it is to hold on one leg for 10 seconds. So there are all these things, like the muscles I said earlier, they don't age. moving parts don't rust. So, you're dealing with the bone structure. I'm getting into another whole realm from dance, but we lose our bone density. They say 1 to 2% per year after age. Uh, I don't know. It could start at age 30, but that doesn't necessarily have to be. Some people may need the statins. They may need something to help them, but there could be people that may never get the osteopenia or osteoporosis if they start early enough, if they start, working the muscles. Um, and so that's really important. I think that I learned from strength training. I had osteopenia when I was in my 60s, which is the step before osteoporosis.
Hmm.
And like I said to the doctor, I'm like, well, what is that? I didn't even know the term at the time. And she said, you don't have to worry about it. It's really just aging. I mean, it's typical. And so I didn't really worry about it, honestly. But when I started strength training, I went to have the bone density test, and I was curious to see if anything had changed in those 2 years of lifting weights. And it had statistically changed. It
Oh,
was
wow.
back to normal.
Wow.
So I I know that can't be for everyone, but why not try? I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could reverse osteopenia or osteoporosis? It's worth a try, right?
So let's go back to just before you started doing this training, um, to say you started working with the trainer, and then you said, I think it was 7 months until you could do that.
Before I was more toned and defined.
Yeah. So when you think back, what sort of a difference did you see in how you felt, and how you moved? What was the change? Like we're not quite at American Ninja Warrior yet, but what sort of effect did that have on your day-to-day life?
A huge sense of confidence.
Yeah.
I would say that was the big thing I had. Um, you know, as we get older, sometimes it's hard to open jars. I was able to open. You mentioned my grip strength. That is a sign of health if if you keep working it. So um, I saw it in little things, in day to day things, just anything that you had to lift. If you want to be able to have a good quality of life and you want to be able to carry your groceries and throw away the cane, possibly, or walker, and you want to play with your grandkids, then it's imperative to start working the muscles. You can get stronger when you're in your 90s doing resistance training. I suggest getting a personal trainer though, because you don't want to hurt yourself. But I never started training until I was age 63. So I think I'm a good example of the fact that you can get stronger when you're older. So that's my saying right here. Strength is ageless. You can see that on my t-shirt. That's my motto. Um,
Excellent.
so
So,
I would like to motivate your audience to be able to get up and do things little by little, baby steps, and not rush the process, but start doing everything you can to get stronger. I tell people to start with walking,
mhm.
just walking, and find a buddy, because it's so much more fun with somebody who is supportive and supporting you, and you vice versa. But then you can start to fast walk and change back and forth between walking and fast walking, and get your heart rate up, and get that process of moving. um, and then when it comes, that's cardio. And then you want to do your strength training 2 to 3 times a week, because that's going to help your bone density. Even walking is going to help your bone density. So all those things are very, very important.
How do you how did you fight through, and I'm going to say the pain, because especially when you're starting and you're not used to the sore muscles, or the slight injuries, or How did you fight through it in those points where you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, how did you bring yourself through it to not give up?
Well, I've got arthritis, and so it's hard, but I felt like I'm able to move my hands better. Seeing some small results helps in fighting through that. The pain, I think I was used to from dance. I mean, I've been dancing since I was in third grade. I stopped when I was 30. I never danced again after 30, but you know, you that was the days when they used to say no pain, no gain. I'm not sure that's the way it should be, but um, I, I used to dance all day long. So you definitely have sore muscles. And I don't know, I think I just got to go to myself that having sore muscles was a sign of getting stronger. So sometimes, you can't go up and down the stairs if you've had a leg day where you've done lots of things with your legs. But it was like, oh, okay, I'm getting strong. So pushing through is always one of the toughest things to try to relate to other people. Um, I experience it in swimming. I compete in swimming as well. And I didn't start that until I retired either. But there are times when I see people that go back and forth and back and forth on the lanes, and I'm like, I'm exhausted. I can't go on. And and a friend one time said to me, "Well, did you die yet?" And I went, "No." He said, "Well, then you can go on." So I remember that little quote. But I found because we have a lane partner, and she's a beast, and she just keeps going. And I'm like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And so I think that I go, well, let's just see. And when I feel that I'm exhausted, I go, well, I'm going to just go and see what happens. And you'll find that you have a lot more gas in the tank than you think you have. It's mental. We have a lot of mental things like I should just stop. I can't do this. Well, if it's a bad hurt, then yes, you should stop. But stopping altogether would be just letting all that good work you've done go to waste. So you want to keep at it and keep improving. And that's what it's all about. It's the little bits of, hey, I got that. I got that obstacle. Oh, I did 200 yards today in stop without stopping, or I did 500 yards without stopping. So if you keep at it, you're going to get better. And that's what we strive for, to see the little improvements.
So let's talk about the mental side of it. And you know,
Toughest.
that's the hard part, is pushing through. But what did you find about your general mood? Because I mean, you specifically had a goal, and you were fighting through some stuff. I'm sure. But did you find that your mental health uh, improved, say, from, when you were 63 and starting until you started going to the gym on a regular basis? What sort of effect did doing that kind of movement, even with the pain and even with the pushing through, did you find that it had a big impact on your day-to-day just mental health?
I mean, it made me feel there's endorphins that happen when you do exercise. So I think it's always, it gives you a great deal of energy. And confidence because you've done something. It could do the other way too. I mean, if are failing a couple of times and you're not getting through it and you don't see the improvement, which happens, there's sometimes you don't see the improvement. Um, those are the times that are hard, and you're sitting there telling yourself, I'm no good, I can't do this. And you have to fight against it. A lot of times I'll feel that there's a little devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, and the devil is saying, you can't do that, forget about it. You've never done anything like that before, why you should it's just constantly in your ear. And the other one is going, oh, why not? Just try it. You'll get better if you do one more. So
Now,
it's a battle.
let's talk about that little devil, because in some of the other interviews you've done, you talked about how people in your life were like, you can't do that. They just didn't have the faith, or they just didn't think it was possible. How did that affect you?
Oh my gosh. Well, the first time that happened was when I left. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I wanted to be a professional dancer. And I went to New York City. Huge difference. Well, everybody there said, nobody makes it there. You'll never make it. You know, what are you going to do? Like 1% of people in the Screen Actors Guild makes a living at it. You hear all those naysayers. It's impossible to do. Uh, but I went again, why not give it a try? I mean, the only thing you've got to lose is your pride, and then you do something else. So I gave myself 3 to 5 years. And in that time, I was able to even do a Broadway show. So, I mean, it worked pretty well for me there. The second time it happened is I got divorced, and that was very difficult. And I had to take the kids, and we moved to the Poconos. So I had to quit acting. And everybody said, you can't live in the Poconos and it snows all the time. I mean, it's hard living. What are you going to do to work? Which is true. I'd never had a real job. We call it in the acting business getting a real job, which is pretty funny. So and at that time, as a single mom and trying to work and trying to raise the kids was sometimes an impossible feat, especially with the blizzards that we went through and all the things of trying to take care of the house. But nobody else was there to do it, so I had to do it. So I mean, there's no choices. So I asked my daughter actually recently what she thought, what she learned, from me growing up. And it was during that time where she said, I learned to be self-sufficient. And so I thought, well, this is very good. Let me ask my son what he got from it. And he said, never give up. So it was a rugged existence. I mean, we were stuck back there in blizzards for a week. It was a very remote location, beautiful, but very remote and hard to make a living. And we had to, shovel the snow off of the roof. We had to, deal with a bat in the house and the bear outside. so, so there were a lot of obstacles. That's a recurring theme in my life.
Yeah.
Uh, as in many people's lives, I feel like life is like being a hurdler, that, it's just like hopping over one obstacle. Oh, here comes another. Got to hop over all these. So I think all of that helped create that feeling of confidence of being able to get through all these things. And going on American Ninja Warrior, I never thought that I was going to win the show, but hey, listen, if I could get through the first obstacle or the first and second, it would be I would be happy with that. Of course, now I'm saying I want to get through 2 and 3, but
That's okay. Got goals.
yeah,
So
attainable goal.
attainable goals.
So
So
yeah, it's
how do you
all you asked about the confidence, or not the confidence, but the mental attitude. Like anybody else, there are those terrible down days where you just don't think you're going to get through it. But you have no choice. You got to get up. You got to make a living. You got to get going. You got to get that obstacle. So it
so
it
the
was
challenge when you come up to it. So I mean, you've had those in your day-to-day life throughout your life. Um, how do you face those challenges? And is it similar when you're coming up on a new obstacle and you don't know what you're walking into? What's the first thing that kind of runs through your head when you hit a new obstacle or challenge that you just didn't know was coming?
I hate to tell you the truth, but the truth is, I go, I can't get that. I'll never get that. The little devil is saying, I'll never be able to do that. So I do things in progressions or
Mhm.
baby steps. So if it's like with an obstacle, I may just jump up and touch it. I may jump again and touch it and feels what it's like to just come down on the ground. So I take it in little stages, one thing at a time. And then I see if I can grab it, but I don't hold on to it. So little by little, if it's a three-part obstacle where you have to go from here to there and land on a thing, I take it in steps. I'll just work on the first part of it. I may work on the second part of it and the third, or in different um, stages that like that. And it's just pushing forward physically, making yourself do the next. A fear. There's a fear factor of letting go of a of a bar and catching, throwing yourself to another bar and catching it. There's always a fear factor, but that's why I have to like. I even work on just coming down with my on my toes first, so that I get the feeling and I don't hurt my back and I don't have difficulty. It's better in a gym where they have mats, but at my friend's house it's outdoors, so you just have to be super careful.
It's a really good point I hadn't really thought of. I mean, I'm mid 40s, and I've noticed that there's a difference when I land than when I was in my 30s or my 20s, or, I watch godkids or my niece and watch them fall. They still bounce.
Yeah.
Um, how do you, I guess, yeah, prepare yourself for the potential landings that, you have to face? That's very different than when you're
Yeah,
younger.
it is, and that's why a lot of times we'll teach people how to fall, what you do, the best way to fall. And I learned that best from my daughter, who is a stunt actress, and she falls all the time. So I think that's an important thing, to know how high you are in the air and to come down on your toe. You don't want to hit your heels because that would be a jar to your back. So if you come down on your toes and bend your legs, you can sometimes save yourself. I mean, the typical thing is that you're going to, go back on your wrist. But I think a lot of seniors who are doing pickleball have found that they've hurt themselves quite a bit in that, because you're trying to catch yourself. So it's best if you have mats. I mean, that would be a better way. With obstacles, we can put mats down, or mattresses. A lot of times we have
Okay.
mattresses.
Okay.
So and to work on that, to see what it's like, first of all, before you try to do anything else, just hang by the bar and then drop down, and bring your chest forward so you don't, go backwards. You don't want to face plant either, but
No.
yeah. Yeah. So I haven't really had any really bad falls. Only one time did I fall into another obstacle and I broke my finger,
Oof.
my little finger, and I never felt it. Honestly, I just kept going.
The
I finished
adrenaline
the
was there.
competition, and then I went, "Oops, that doesn't look good." So it took a long time to recover. That's the other thing. So I think that's a big fear of everything, is doing anything, because you don't want to get hurt and have to recover for such a long time.
Hmm.
But if you take it slow, in baby steps, and you are at the same time getting stronger, because you don't want to just collapse. You want, your legs to hold you up. So you need to work on leg strength. You want your body to, hold on to the bar. So, all those things are things that you need to work on. And we do a lot of balance work. We have a group of girls that gets together twice a week, and we put all these different balance obstacles. They're very simple things like bed risers, that they have in dorms for the
Hmm.
for the beds. We use, just like a balance beam. It may be a bar, or it may be a little bit wider, but lots of simple things that are not difficult to get.
So now I'm going to flip this around a little bit because we've talked about the drive and not giving up. Um, when you get hurt is usually when you just have to get that last ski run in, or you just want to do that last lift, or just push that little bit further. how did you find your balance so that you were progressing without, I guess, damaging?
Well, the first part, and that's happened many times, I just want to get that last, I'm this close to catching that 7 foot lache. But if you do that same motion over and over again, our shoulders are very vulnerable. And the minute I start feeling it sore now, I will stop and go do balance. I have to stop myself because I don't want to be sore for months. So you learn to do that. And there are times where I still just do it a little bit longer than I should. But that little bell is ringing in my head. That little flag goes up and says, hey, 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 you better stop. Get away from it right now. Come back to it another day, but not today.
So it's
Yeah,
okay to listen to yourself when it's like,
very much.
yeah, maybe just, yeah.
You do get those hints or those red flags, and
Yeah.
it's important to listen to your body. That's very important.
So how has this process affected your relationship with your daughter and probably your son and the rest of your family as well, but specifically with your daughter because she was doing it before you were. Um, did you find there was a new connection between the two of you?
Oh, absolutely. And I see that there's a lot more parents that are joining in and doing things with their kids now, which I'm so happy to see. But there's a bond because you're working on some of the same things. You have the same, you know, kind of goals. And so when I visited my daughter, I mean, what are we doing? But we're doing new things. And we worked on, balancing, fun balance things. And we did rock climbing, and we can do those things together. I mean, obviously, she's way better at everything than I am. But, I also learned from her. It's sort of like it's turned around. She learned from me growing up, and now I'm learning from her because she's such a pro. Uh,
So
so I
who would you say has more mental toughness, you or your daughter?
Well, I think
Ooh.
my daughter does.
Oh, does she? I
I
totally
think
thought you
so.
would
Yeah.
say you.
No, no, I say that because she's a stunt actress. I mean, you have to be really on top of your game for that. She said to me one time, if you have your foot, an inch in the wrong place, somebody could die. I mean, you have to be so focused and so strong and be ready for all those crashes and doing when something hits you and you get thrown way back. I mean, you get whiplash, but she loves it and she's very determined to do it. I find that there's a point that I go, I've had enough. And I'll give you a good example is that rope climbing, I have a fear of heights. And I did my first rope climb and I got to about, I don't know, 38 feet up. And there you have a harness. And Jessie is, and I said, I'm ready to come down. And she goes, do one more. She's videoing. And I'm like, oh, okay, I must not have made it to 40. So I'll take 2 more pulls. And then I went, done, I'm going to come down now. And she goes, do one more. And I
Oh
went,
no.
yeah, I got it. I hadn't made it to 40 yet. Well, I have to make it at least to 40. And I took a couple of more. And then when I got down, I said, why did you keep saying do one more? And she says, because that's when you get the best strength. It's like if you can't do a pull up, you're on your last one, your 10th one, you can't quite make it, but keep struggling, keep trying to like do whatever you can because that's when you get the growth.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So
So you're afraid of heights. The
yeah,
majority of American Ninja Warrior is high. How, like like way up there. How did you deal with the fear of heights?
well, I've been doing a lot of rope climbing, but I don't look down. I don't know that you ever get rid of that fear because if I climbed a lighthouse here on Oak Island and I couldn't go out on the banister. I couldn't. I had to hold on to the wall. So I mean, I just can't look down. And as long as I'm just looking at the rope and concentrating on that, Otherwise, I get butterflies in my stomach. I just feel like I'm gonna fall.
What?
So,
I'm confused now because like you're talking about flying through the air and grabbing onto different things in that specific uh
oh,
you
the
know
nunchucks.
with the nunchucks, and you're like up there and you're like, I'm going back, and you're sliding down and it's fast. Like, is it just going too fast? You can't feel the butterflies or
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Well, I'm over water and I'm very comfortable in water. So I
okay.
knew it's very safe. They make it as safe as possible. And I'm not that much of a risk taker, or I would have tried to dismount and land on the platform. Um, but I knew I couldn't make it. I mean, I just didn't have the
It was
I don't know,
fast.
mechanics. Is very fast.
Yeah.
And so many people fell on it. I just knew I didn't have the mechanics of how to prepare to explode off.
Yeah.
Now that I've watched it a million times and I've seen people do it and what they did, it's still, you have to be thinking pretty fast. And my brain doesn't work that fast, but I'd love another try at it.
So, are you going to try and do it again, do you think?
I will. Season 16 has already been filmed, so that it won't be this year. I next year would come so fast, so I don't know. But that is one of my goals, definitely.
Good. And so,
So,
Ninja Warrior, what other kind of goals do you have for yourself? You say you swim and you've been climbing. What else do you have in store for yourself over the next year?
well, I'm not sure you knew this, but I just received in September the Guinness World Record for being the oldest female Ninja Warrior competitor.
I heard that. Yes, congratulations.
Yes. So that opened up another whole world for me. And I will tell you that they did a massive press and they used my things in it. Um, so it opened up the world. Like I'm talking, you're in Canada, right?
Correct.
So I'm talking to Canada and I've talked to Mexico and London and Lisbon and South Africa and India and Mexico, all over the world. And it's all fitness people and about aging and getting fit. And we're all in this little bucket of we got to get the seniors out there. We've got to get people more interested in fitness. And so it's opened up a world. And I would like to do, I have two ideas that I'm pitching to them for a Guinness and more Guinness records. So I'm hoping that that can come to pass as well. So that's a
Oh,
goal.
that's
Going on American
wonderful.
Ninja Warrior is a goal. Swimming is a different one. It's a very individual. Again, I'm not going to be the fastest. Maybe in the state, I can be the fastest, but nationally, that's another wall to climb. Um, but I want to see me getting better. And there's so much technical to do that it's amazing. So I want to keep improving. That's my goal there. Um, I would like to get to the point where I don't stop when I'm exhausted, that I work through it. That's a huge goal for me because I will stop. I don't have the discipline, which is why well, I have discipline, but not enough discipline. And that's why I have a personal trainer because they're there and they can tell you when your head is over and your knees are going in and they keep you in good form. I
Hmm.
think that's what's kept me from getting so many injuries is that I keep trying to get stronger. I want to strengthen all the joints, the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists. That was a long answer for what you said for other
No, it's
goals.
perfect.
I do want to do more rock climbing. I think that's great for grip.
Yes,
So and like I said earlier, grip, if you look it up, it's amazing that grip is such a huge thing about health.
I had no idea. I'll have to look that one up myself.
Yes, for sure.
So,
So,
as we're kind of closing down on this conversation, what advice would you give to, people who are, say, 50 or over, with regards to starting, or 60 and over when you're like, I'm too old, or 70 when you're like, I just don't feel it. I can't do it. What would you say to people in their individual journeys to help them stay motivated?
Well, a
As a
lot
big
of
one,
things.
sorry.
Yeah, it's a big one. Well, age and inexperience shouldn't be barriers. They're just part of the process. So I think you shouldn't be afraid to go into a gym or to ask for help. And I think we all have to start somewhere, and that you shouldn't be afraid to take those first steps. And it's important to take the baby steps. You're never too old. It's never too late to chase a dream. Never. Those things I think you have to keep telling yourself, because now we have more seniors that are doing more amazing things at age, I don't want to say old ages, but 89 and 90s and up to 100. They're doing incredible things now. Make attainable goals. Um, you'll never know unless you try. You don't want to look back and say, I wish I'd tried. Just step forward.
How do you
Um,
approach and I've heard it from people of all ages where it's like, I'm really out of shape, and I'm just embarrassed. I'm like really out of shape. I'm embarrassed. I can't bring myself to do it. And it's that step to start. Any suggestions on just how to get over your own pride?
there's so many classes and so many things to get started. And I don't think you should take any of that to let your pride keep you from getting better. I think you have to give it a try. You just have to step forward. I think if you look into your town, your area, your why, and you see that they have classes, there are things like yoga, Tai Chi that are very easy to get into. If you want to change your body image, if you're feeling embarrassed to get started because you're out of shape, just remember there are a lot of other people that are that way too, that are just like you, that are trying to be there. Maybe find a buddy to go with. Um, just don't let something stop you from getting healthier or fit.
All right.
Um,
Is there
let's see.
anything else, yeah, that you wanna share that you think is super important to
Well,
just aging well?
there's a new term for it. It's called super aging.
Oh, I
So
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I think we need to do that. I think we need to push forward. I think um, make a commitment, and don't just say it. You've got to make the commitment, and then be consistent, form a habit, and then build on that. And that's what you have to do. You have to get up. Sometimes getting the clothes, that make you feel good, and setting them out the day before. And so you can't have an excuse not to go. You got to have all those things in order and then just go. And you'd be surprised at how much fun you'll have. Maybe not so much fun the first times, maybe a little soreness, but it's the way to get to what you want to be like. So focus on the process, not necessarily the end. Let's
Enjoy
redefine
the
what
journey.
aging. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's redefine what aging is. It's not the years in your life; it's the life in your years.
I always like that one. Yeah.
That's from Abe Lincoln,
Oh,
actually.
such a smart
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, really. And we just had President's Day too.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's a world of sports and activities that are available to you, and along with the sports and getting consistent and going, uh, would be your diet. It comes along with it, because once you start active, you want to eat more properly. And that's different from all sorts of people. And you want that protein and get the sunlight and get the sleep and get all those ducks in a row and keep at it. Don't stop.
Yep. And if your foot gets wet, just keep on going.
Yeah, the failures you got to just work through. It's just, it's just a part of life. You're not going to get it the first time. Uh, some people do, but if you don't, you just try again.